Cause we came up off of slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane. We came up off of slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane. Hey, G-R-E-K.
Black man, black fam. Welcome to Black Dad Code, where everything we do before family, nothing before family. I'm Kelly Major.
I'm Kevin Bailey.
I'm Charles Williams. We're going to talk about today a little bit about the situation in the Memphis story that's going on in our community right now. I'm going to say black community because we're black dads and we want to have a voice in everything that goes on in these communities and stuff. That was not, that was sad. That brought tears to my Meemaw's eyes. That brought tears to my eyes. That brought tears to my brother's eyes, or whatever. We always look at the fact that it's always the white officer killing the black man or shooting the black man or whatever. But this time, it's our own people. It's our own black officers beating the man to death on camera. And it's a blessing that we do have the cameras now. That the cameras, that they are being accounted for, that they have to film themselves in their actions. And their actions got them what they're gonna deserve, probably life in prison.
As this show being Black Dad Code, and I look at it from a dad's perspective, and can you imagine what his mother's feeling like? Because, just imagine if this was one of your children.
Right, exactly.
How you would feel right now from the parent aspect. Everybody out there looking, if you just think, what if this was my child that this was done to? How would I feel? And unfortunately, we as a people, we have to feel that feeling far too often and for far too long. Almost to where you almost become a little bit numb to it. You feel it so much, you almost become a little bit numb to it. It's like, it doesn't quite, now it shocks our mental, like, oh, they still doing it. But I remember when it used to shock even my feeling and everything, I used to feel some type of way and actually scared about stuff like that. But you get numb to how you feel about it because you see it on us so much and so often on a regular basis. The cruelty and the hatred and the anger that's displayed to us. And really, as a dad, it's just sad when you think about this from a family aspect. Families in our communities are always grieving because of our interactions with those who are really supposed to be there to protect and serve.
Right.
You're supposed to protect me and serve me, not kill me.
Right.
Yeah, I'll say, and Kelly, you make a good point because you see, unfortunately, we see this so often that you do start to get numb. But as I told you guys too, when I went to watch that video, I got those feelings again, and it was just, I couldn't even go through the entirety of the video just because those feelings just got so high, and I just felt so much anger. And I look at that too, and that's not, as we said before, like that's not supposed to happen with us. But I didn't see any leadership in there. I didn't see anybody feeling like, too, hey, what if that was my son? None of these guys never looked to say, hey, this is one of us, and we're really just doing this too. So sad situation. I just pray for the parents. It's just one deal too. We got to do better.
It's Willie Lynch all over again. It's Willie Lynch. It's us turning against ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the light against the dark, the old against the young, the strong against the weak. And that, in our community, that has to stop. We need to start looking up to our elders, instead of, people, like, I have a couple of businesses in the community in Tulsa, Black Wall Street, and I always get, some terms, I guess, of endearment from younger guys. Hey, OG, hey, school, and I guess that's how they show respect and stuff like that. And I try to sprinkle them with little, you know, gifts of knowledge. I try to say like, hey, be safe out there, you know, we'll pull your pants up, don't go, you know, do this and do that. But I don't know if it's always being heard. And that's what we need to change in these communities, that they need to start listening to the people that's already been there and done that. You know, y'all going down these same blind ass roads that we've been down, and all it leads to is death or penitentiary. That's it.
Today on Black Dad Code, we have the privilege to be able to interview one of our own, Mr. Charles Williams, and hear his story about black dad, being a black dad and raising children and experiences in this country. So we'd like to start off with Mr. Williams. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us about you?
Okay. Charles Williams. I'm 56 years old. I currently live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. I always throw emphasis on that because it was a good community back then, and we're raising it to try to be a better community these days. But I was born in Los Angeles, California. And if people who lived in Los Angeles or was raised in Los Angeles, I was raised in Los Angeles back in the, say, 60s and 70s. So I was born in 66. So 70s, 80s, 90s, doing that. And that community, it was a lot of gang violence, a lot of drug dealing, a lot of everything. So me coming up as a youth, I experienced death around me. I experienced drugs around me. I experienced, people touching on, the uncles touched on the girls, the aunties touched on the boys, stuff like that, all that, a part of my upbringing. And this is really, as an older guy, I tried to kind of mask those feelings inside. But this platform, it need to be talked about, because it's a lot of things like that's going on in a lot of the black homes, in the black communities. And this is kind of a stigma that we don't really talk about in our community. I was raised by a mother that was, basically, she had 7 kids, didn't have a job, she was on welfare, she did, drugs and just to get away, because her upbringing, she had a disease that her father brought back to her from Vietnam. It was I guess BJ had it, or one of our guests, the discoloration of the skin and stuff.
Yes, the
and
loss
she
of
had it
pigmentation.
bad, the loss of pigmentation. I can't, to the life of me, I can't think of the name of the disease. I tried all night thinking about it. I don't know if it's alopecia or whatever, but she had that disease. So to most people, it seemed she was like a monster. She almost looked like a monster. I know my older brother is gonna be like, why would you go on, live broadcast and talk about that? But it needs to be talked about. So that made her, I want to say, not less of a person, but that made her feel some kind of
Insecurities,
way.
gave her insecurities.
Gave her
Yes, gave her
insecurity.
insecurities.
So the insecurity, it trickles down to the, to the kids or whatever. Because when people see your mom, oh, your mom is the burnt face lady, or she's the ugly lady in the neighborhood. And this goes a long way with the kids and stuff like that. So you're raised in the neighborhood.
Can I ask you something real quick while you're going through this? Did you have a dad?
No.
What about a
I
granddad?
didn't. None of that. I never knew who my father was, and I think her dad died from the Vietnam War. He came back with that, or I never really went into that. But to this day, I never knew who my father was, and that's what I was, trying to get into as far as like how my mom came about. Okay. Because I think my brothers and sisters, I think I might have met 2 of their fathers, and it was 7 of us, and I never knew who my father was. And like I said, I was raised in South Central Los Angeles. I grew up on the street, Hoover, which is prominent around the country now with gang banging and stuff and all that stuff. You can find a Hoover Crip in any of these communities in our neighborhood now, which I think that's not a good thing, not at all, but that's just the reality of it. But coming up in my neighborhood, I never knew why us as, say, 10-year-olds, we would run across the street where the street light was on that corner, but we would run across the street in the middle of the street. And then all of a sudden, the police would, swoop up on us. What are you boys doing? That's jaywalking. And from now that I'm an older, black man, I understand what they were doing. They were trying to frighten us as young men to let us know, because it's all kind of crime going on, prostituting, drug dealing, but you're stopping 10-year-olds from running across the street talking about their jaywalking and jamming them up, asking them names. And this happened at an early age in my life, that the police was always, instead of protecting, serving, they was always trying to show that they was an authority figure. That they ran these neighborhoods. Y'all don't have nothing to do about running these neighborhoods. But as I'm gonna move forward, and in my conversation, I was raised in that, South Central. I did a lot of things that I'm not happy about. When I was younger, we didn't have the best clothes. So some of me and my homeboys, we went to the Fox Hill Mall, to the Baldwin Mall, different store outlets. And we used to go to the top floor, grab a sack, that had the brand of the store name on it, and fill it up with Polo, Izod, members only. That was the brands back then. We fill that up, roll it up, boom, like we had bought, these clothes already. And the only thing that would get us away with it is that we were dressing up. We had stole so many clothes that we would dress up in the Polos and Izod, so it looked like we belonged. It looked like we was the Baldwin Hill kids and not the South Central Los Angeles kids from the ghetto. Right. And we would go back to our communities with these clothes and sell them to hustle. Instead of going to school, we would go into these malls and steal things. Knock on wood, I never was caught. We always ran when we did get caught, but we was adolescents. And at this stage, that's not many things that they can do with the adolescents these days. And,
it sort of seems like not having the father figure in the home forced you to have to almost step up and be a father figure yourself, because you had to provide.
Exactly, I had to provide. I always had to provide.
Right.
And I can say that I always did. If I wasn't out stealing, I was working. People know me for, in LA, working at the car wash, doing Ralph's. We used to go, it was a supermarket called Ralph's, where we would ask ladies, could we push your basket to your car, help you with your groceries, make change off that. Everybody know that was one of our hustles. The boosting was one of our hustles, and collecting cans and stuff. We just had hustles to help our mothers, because there wasn't no fathers in none of our homes. We didn't know, unlike yourself, Kelly, where you had a father in the home. None of my friends had fathers in the homes. My role models was dope dealers and pimps. Most of my uncles sold dope or they was pimps. So, and that's what entails me to go back as I left Los Angeles, because I was like, to myself, I was saying internally, I need to get out of this community. And then I had a role model at the car wash that I worked at, the guy that owned the car wash. He was like, he saw me get into some trouble, going to school, you know what I'm saying? Because I was so much of a hustler, and I always had money in my pocket. And other guys who didn't have the money in their pocket, as it is today, they didn't like that. So they always wanted to try to, double team me or go against me instead of, and I was just so lucky I had a bigger brother that was bigger than everybody else, Big Sid, who works with me now, as my head security guy and does a lot of things for me now. He was my big brother. And they didn't know that at first, but I'm like, you take something from me, you got to deal with Big Sid, because I'm going to go tell him. And he gonna come, he gonna come fuck you up, and I'm gonna get the shit back. So, but I'm serious. And he's, to this day, he's still doing that for me.
It don't go away, man. I'm telling you.
It never goes away. But as I was working at this car wash, I did have a mentor, a church guy who was a family guy, who knew his father, who knew his grandfather, and he told me, Charles, the best thing that you can do is get out of LA. He said, what you need to do is go south. You know what I'm saying? You need to go south. You know, you need to go back where our ancestors was originated from. You know, and I figured one day my auntie, Aunt Rosie, Sister Beeks, you know, people who watch this and, you know, my family members, they know who I'm talking about. She was coming down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street, and having a trip down here because one of her sons was down here. He had ran down here because he was running from a murder or whatever, changed his name. And she was coming down here to visit him. So I jumped in the car with her just to visit. Mind me, I'm just, all right, I want to go. And she was like, you got money for gas? And you know, this is the type of people I grew up. I'm 14 years old. She asked me, you got money for gas? You got money to feed yourself? I'm just saying, this is the environment that I grew up in.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I got it. You know, I got that. So I jumps in the car to come to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street with her, you know, and I get here, and back then it was like 82, 83, and it was like a real solid, silent community. It wasn't none of this stuff going on. You didn't hear sirens, helicopters, or none of that all day long. And once I got here, and because I had other, you know, family members that lived here, like Scratch lived here already, because his mom brung him at an early age, which she wanted to bring me, but my mom was like, no, he's not going because they're gonna cut him off welfare. I'm just being honest. Right. And that was the only factor that didn't make me come down here. But as I got older, I found my way down here. So I got in the car with her and came down here. And once I got here, I said, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. This is my, you know, I'm gonna be truthful and honest. I was like, when I got here at 15, I was like, I can run this city. Just because at 15, I was like, I can take control of the city and do the things that I was doing in LA or California. I can run this city. And that was my mindset as a young 15-year-old. So I was like, I'm not going back to Los Angeles. So when my auntie got ready to leave and go back, she's like, where Charles at? Well, my nickname was Kabuka. They was like, where's Kabuka at? Like, he's nowhere to be found. Because I was hiding, because I was like, I'm not going back. You know what I'm saying? Because it was all
right.
Shooting.
And see, if you think about that now, can you imagine at 14 years old, in today's world, because
Right.
these kids ain't like us,
Right.
you having them, like, I'm gonna be on my own. I'm staying
Yeah,
here.
I'm
You
staying.
know, you gotta feed yourself,
Yeah.
home yourself,
Indeed.
clothe yourself, provide for yourself.
Yeah.
But you just had that in you, like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
yeah.
this.
I had it in me. And the thing is that I had a cousin, Randy Beeks, you know, he's a good mentor of me. And I was like, hey man, if I find a job and everything, can I stay with you and your girl? He was like, cool, you know, you can stay with us. I found a job day one, you know, at the Tulsa Country Club. I was bussing tables for lawyers, doctors, judges. I was in there bussing tables, you know, in order for me to stay. But his woman didn't like me, so, you know, he put me out. So I was on the streets then. But I had a bigger, you know, cousin, Meemaw, Scratch's mother, you know, she took me in at 15 and took, you know, made sure I was okay and took care of me. But I always kept a job and I always, you know, did what I was supposed to do. When I was, you know, I want to say I was not a bad kid in her eyes because I was a slick, you know, I was a slick motherfucker.
Right,
so
right,
you
right,
really couldn't catch me doing shit. Even though I was in the mix,
Right.
like now, you know, you
Right.
really wasn't gonna catch me doing shit because I was gonna, you know, we bosses. You know what
Right,
I'm saying?
yeah.
So I was gonna give the,
Give
you
the-
know, give the job
Give
to
the
somebody.
play, and then the team runs the play.
Yeah, exactly.
the coach.
The team runs the play. You know what I'm saying? So in her eyes, I really wasn't doing that, you know, that much damage or whatever. But I did, you know, after a while, you know, after college, after high school, I went to a Christian high school called Victory Christian. I graduated from there, you know, where, you know, we spoke in tongues and did this and did that. I went there on a basketball scholarship and, you know, to make a long story short on that, after high school, I went off to college to another Christian school, Bartlesville Wesleyan, which is just Wesleyan now up in Bartlesville, you know, to play basketball and stuff like that. But you know what we was up there freaking with the girls, doing so forth and so on, not going to class. So I ended up leaving school, dropping out. So at this point, all my uncles and cousins, they figured out that this was Tulsa, Oklahoma was a good place, a good source to transport weed, cocaine, sherm, water, PCP, or whatever. So by that time, I'm 18, 19 years old, they're here. You know what I'm saying? And they're doing their thing. They got the drop top 6'4s, the blazers, drop top, music, everything, doing the thing in this, you know, we want to say country town that wasn't really used to this. And I'm like, I want in. And they like, nah. Even back then, they was like, nah, man, you need to stay in school. Now I'm like, nah, fuck that. I want in. I want in. So they wouldn't let a guy in. So like anything else, I had to go ease my way in. You know what I'm saying? So I eased my way in, started doing.
You know what's crazy about that is when I was younger, I used to really when I had my life sentence, I was in prison. I really regretted the choices I made in my life because I wanted in. I didn't have to be
right.
in. I wanted in.
Yeah, I wanted in.
And I regretted that. And now I look at my life today and what I do for a living. It was our journey, because like you said, it called us.
It was our journey.
Exactly. Don't you feel like it
was
called
our
you?
It did.
Yeah,
As I go down the road, and that's what I'm saying. It was so much of my journey I wanted in, but back then it was crack cocaine. That was the big thing going. It was crack cocaine, which we ruined. I'm gonna be honest. We ruined a lot of lives. I've never seen women do the things that they do for, you know, a piece of crack cocaine. I saw a woman suck dogs' dicks, fuck 10 dudes off of this drug. And I said to myself, because my mom, my real mom, was on drugs, and a lot of her friends and stuff like that were on drugs too. And I said to myself, I will never ever get hooked on no drug. I would never ever, because I saw what it do to people. I said, nothing can make me do the things that these people are doing to that. Yeah. And as I go back, because I remembered I was 10 years old, and my mom had a boyfriend. I remember his name, Marcus. And we were kids in the house, and he OD'd off heroin. And that was the first death that I ever had. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't bringing this guy back. And we're young adolescents seeing this guy with a needle in his arm dead. And at me being 56 years old and still at 10, still 46 years later, that resonating with me, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's not gonna be the road that I, run down. And that was just one of the first deaths that I seen in my life. And even probably 6 months after that, the neighborhood that I lived in, I saw, some gangsters. It was apartments next door to me. I saw some gangsters over a bad drug deal. Dude didn't want to pay him and he was standing on the balcony or whatever. Dude just gunned him down. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, you seeing all this shit as a young man? It's like and what do you call it? Because I can't never.
PTSD. PTSD.
It runs rapidly.
Because from seeing something traumatic.
Rapidly,
and it programs your brain a certain way.
Yeah.
It releases certain things in you.
Mm-hmm. It does. And moving forward, like once I got down here, I got into the dope game and doing, I was successful as fuck, because that's what I do. I'm a hustler. I was successful as fuck as doing that shit, But we all, without having the guidance of a father, a grandfather, whatever. So the money came fast, and you spent the money fast. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
right.
You was on the jewelry tip. You know what I'm saying? The car shit. We never thought about buying property, land,
Right,
and
right.
stuff
None of
like
that,
that.
no.
Like we
Exotic
doing
trips,
now.
running around the country,
running around the country,
taking
up
different girls to different places,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I'm up and down 40 like it's going crazy, east and
Right,
west.
right.
You know, 40 highway, if that's what anything, transporting it back and forth, trying to make it happen. And then that's when I go into, like, in 88, when I was like, call myself a boss or big time drug dealer or whatever, moving keys or whatever. That's when I started having kids. And
Okay.
my
Before
first,
you get into that part, because we're gonna definitely touch on that. I want to go back in something. I thought I heard you say one time or not. You was adopted.
yeah.
Can you tell us about that and how you felt being adopted?
All right, what it was is like, I have a bigger cousin that's, my mom and her grew up together. My mom kind of nurtured her when she was younger. So, and I always used to go and escape because she was the type of person, when she was younger, she wanted out of LA too. So she would move gradually, like to Pomona, DeWardy. These are little outskirt cities in California where you can get away from the concrete jungle, LA, the concrete jungle. So she would she'd take her kids and, hey, we're gonna move over here. But she would always take me with her. You know what I'm saying? It was Scratch Mother, my
Okay.
brother Scratch.
Yes, yes.
That's why we, brothers.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but she ended up, once I moved here, I was young at 15,
Right.
so I couldn't do shit. I couldn't check myself in
Right. You
school.
still- you
I
still-
couldn't do
yes,
stuff. So
yes.
she adopted me. But she was my big cousin. She
Okay,
was, she my
okay.
Meemaw now.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Diane
right.
Johnson loved the shit out of her, cause she, if it wasn't from her, I would be dead or in jail forever. Like the sentence that you had.
Right.
But knowing you, I probably would have did the same thing. Work my shit up out of that situation. But yeah, she adopted me at a young, at like 15 years old, and I thank her for that. I thank her every day for it. She really saved my life. Tulsa, Oklahoma really saved my life because the things that I was doing in LA would have got me dead. Because the type of person that I am now, that's what I was into. You know what I'm saying? I was into things like that. Yeah.
So Chuck, let me ask you this. So how do you feel like your family situation with that influenced your parenting?
It did because, in the beginning, like I was a dope boy or whatever, and I had 3 different kids by 3 different women in the year of '88. So I have 3 kids. I have 2 girls and a boy that's the same age. I have a Charles Jr. that's the same age. I have Charlisa. You know how arrogant I am, Charlisa. and then I have Joan Che. And my daughters, I wish I could have been there more, but I don't know how to raise women. I know how to raise sons, I know how to raise boys. I can't say that I know how to raise boys or sons, but I know that I can tell a man that I've done that. You don't want to do this. This is what you need to do on this and that with the girls, Robert. You don't want to have kids like you can tell them all the little jests, but you really can't, because I helped a couple of my daughters on their period situation, and I was startled. I had to ask the girl that I was with at that time. I don't know shit about that. She got her period. Ooh, that's your department, baby. At that time it was Tony's mother. You know what I'm saying? That was by my side. But going back to that, I just wish that I spent a lot more time with my daughters than that I didn't do.
And see, I had to learn that because I have a daughter in sole custody. I got to go to Walmart and get her tampons and her this and that
exactly.
and all of that. And I would have never thought in a million years I would be a girl's dad the way I am.
Right.
So I always thought I could raise a boy, I could raise a man.
Exactly.
I know how to be that.
Exactly.
But I'm a girl's dad, and I'm all the way a girl's dad.
And that's what I say because I have 4 girls. I have 6 boys and 4 girls. So, and then the younger girls, as like the older girls, 2 of them are the same age, mind me. So, and then the next one is 19. So I tried to be more comforting, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying, and more, you know. And then especially, and then the youngest one is 15. So she gets, you know, she gets it all. You know what I'm saying? She's not gonna put up with no bullshit because she knows she can go to dad and dad'll get it.
Right.
You don't gotta buy me
Right.
shit, nigga. I go to my daddy and get it.
Right.
And then that's what the black fathers with the daughters are missing. We need to spoil the shit out of our daughters, not to make them that they won't do. If they're doing good in school,
You know what
and
that
do-
also does is it does in reverse. You know, as you saying this, it just came to
Right.
my head because I do the same thing.
Right.
My daughter knows daddy get everything, but it also teaches them I do need a real man in my life.
Right, exactly.
Because they know what the real man
What the real-
brings.
yeah, what the
So
real-
so therefore they won't be girls growing up. I don't need a man in my life.
Yeah,
I can do
being
everything
independent.
myself. I'm
Yeah.
independent, which goes against family.
Right.
You know, because they're used to accustomed to having a dad doing things, so they will then want a good man in their life.
Or, like you said too, you setting that bar so high that not
Yeah.
just any old scrub
But you
can come
have
in
to-
and do a little
Right.
something.
A
and
real
do-
man.
Yeah,
Like I said, they want a
they
real
got
man in their
real,
life. Yeah.
And then you be around too to be like, you dating? You know what I'm saying? Because I always be on there, you dating yet? You know, because
Yeah.
she's 15. Who is he? You know, because I'm a, you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to bring, and I always check on my, you know, adolescent kids, which I've checked on all my kids and be like, are you being bullied in school? Because that's the one thing, because I was kind of bullied in school. But like I said, when they did bully me, I went to the bully. Like,
Right.
hey, you want to bully?
"Mama,
Say it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, get them. But I always check on my kids on that aspect, you know, because my son plays basketball, you know, the younger one, you know, and there's a lot of hazing going on and stuff like that because he's an underclassman, he's on varsity, he's on, I was like, is any hazing? You know, I just don't want that in his life. I'm like, if that's, I'll handle all that. I don't know, seeming, you know, like bossy or whatever, but I'll handle all that, you know, in his life. But going back to the, you know, the 3 kids in the, you know, in '88, which I thought I was boss dude, big time drug dealer, but I'll never do that again. I'm not saying that I would take it back because they're great kids. You know what I'm saying? Like my son, CJ, you know, he lives in Houston now. He has a master's from OSU, as you went.
Okay.
You know, he has a master's in computer technology or whatever. So he's doing this thing. And, you know, my daughter in Kansas, Joan Shay, she's working on her 2nd book or whatever. She writes. She's an author. And then my daughter, Charliza, she lives in Sacramento, California. She's a nurse, and she does her thing. And she has two sons, which I'm a grandfather.
Okay, are your kids married?
No.
Okay,
No.
are the dads in their children's lives?
The dad is in, like my oldest son, I didn't go, you know, like we talked about in one of the features, my top oldest son that I didn't find out till he was 12 years
Yes.
old. He's married.
Okay.
And he has 3 kids.
Okay.
So he's married. He's been married for 7, 8, probably 10 years. You know,
Okay.
I don't keep up because it's not my marriage, but it's his marriage. But he's been married to the same woman for, you know, probably a decade now.
So now it's the things we've been discussing through Black Dad Code and family and structures and things like that. We can you even see that with your next generations and not
Yeah,
being
I can
married
see
to
it.
things
I
where
can-
those ties need to be made and
But
you
I
need
can
to get
see
that-
the structure of me being her father, me being their grandfather.
Right.
So now we can have that structure
Right.
going, you know what I'm
forward.
saying? Going
right,
forward.
like you're breaking that chain.
Yeah, we're breaking that
You're
chain.
breaking that
Because like I said,
right.
I never knew to this day, I don't know who my father is. So I didn't have a chance to meet his, you know, but I want to have that in line. Like I said, I wouldn't put that on no kid that I
Right.
wouldn't be around, or at least you know who I am, you know what I'm saying? Or at least you can call me, here's a number, or you can put hands on me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put
Right.
that on, you know. And I think that in relationships, that has kind of, you know, that tore me apart in relationships. Not knowing who my father was, knowing who my mother, because I've had some kind of yeah, exactly. Emptiness, or I always felt like I didn't want to listen to the woman because I was raised by pimps or hardcore gangsters where they slap their women around, you know, and shit like that. But I never put hands on, you know.
Okay,
no
so
woman.
what you saying that's gonna bring me then to the black dad tough question.
Okay.
And I'm asking this for all of America
Right,
because
right.
every time we see the videos and I get comments, everybody say, that one dude got 10 kids.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it just
yeah,
comes
yeah,
out. So, what were you thinking? How were you living? What was your mentality? What was your lifestyle when you had 3 different women pregnant at the same time?
Like I said, I was selling dope. And I really didn't know because I was like, you know, I'm a very sexual person. So to feed my appetite when I was younger, I needed, you know, I guess I needed that in my life because I had, I don't think I should use their names. I'll just call them ex-wives or whatever. But I needed that, I guess, in my life. And I noticed once I went to prison, after I went to prison, you have time to sit back and think about it. And I always thought too that, you know, I read a lot of, you know, I read Malcolm X book. I read, you know, I got into reading and stuff. And I was like, well, in my day and time, the black race was diminishing.
Right.
So my whole thing, I'm gonna be honest, and this is the honest to God truth. This is the honest to God truth. I used to tell myself, hey, if I can have as many black kids by different nationalities, I can save my race. That was my premise. That's why I have 10 kids. That was my thing, because when I was in prison, I read that we were an endangered species. In the 90s and going into the 2000s, that the black man was dying at a rapid rate, that we was killing each other. So I was like, well, if I can go out and have different kids by different nationalities, because I got kids by white women, black women, Indian women. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I can help save my race. I didn't know that till DHS stepped in. Be like, motherfucker, you've been in prison. Here's your bill.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole, you know, that was the whole premise on me. And I was trying to save our race. And I'm not just saying this to just, and I've always stood by this, not just on this platform, and any woman that I get with, and they like, now you have 10 kids.
You wanted to have a bunch of kids.
I did.
Let's really
And
cook
I
out. I
even-
wanted to have a bunch of
and
kids.
I
I got some friends like that.
Right,
They want to have a
right.
bunch of kids, and they
And I
take care
wanted
of
to.
all of them.
Yeah,
and they in
exactly.
all their lives. They just wanted a bunch of kids. My
It was rough.
grandmother,
It was rough
my
like a
grandmother
mother.
had 19 children.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you know,
my auntie and everybody else. No, my family is a fruitful family. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? My brother, Scratch, has 9 kids. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You know, my other brother said, I think he has 3 or 4. Aunt probably have 4, you know, or something like that. But that was my philosophy. I wanted
Okay.
to save my
So
race.
then let me ask you this then. How did you support 3 children being born in the same year?
I was a
At
dope
such a
dealer.
young age.
I was
Okay.
a dope dealer. So everybody had it until I went to prison. Then when I went to prison, it got rough. You know what I'm saying? Like I spoke on selling, you know, dope in the projects or whatever, and then me living with my babies, you know, with one of my ex-wives. That's what I'm not gonna call them baby mamas, because I don't think that's a good stigmatism that we need to take that off, especially in Oklahoma, because after you live with the woman for 6 months, that used to be the law. You was married.
Common law still in
common
effect.
law
Yes.
still in effect.
Yes.
They just
So
changed
would that
some
be
of
a
the
black
things.
dad code to stop calling them baby mamas?
Stop calling them baby mamas. Stop calling them baby mamas. Them was your ex-wives or wives
Right.
or whatever. So you gotta, you know, and like I still have communication with all those women. We don't have no ill will or none of that. I talk to them on a regular basis. You know, if I got it, they got it. If they got it, I got it.
Okay, so you mentioned going to prison. How did that affect your relationship with your children?
It put a strain on it in the big, because I did bids in California and Arizona. I never did no time in Oklahoma. Knock on wood.
Did you get visits? Did you get to see them?
I didn't get to see nobody. I didn't get to see.
I know how that feels because I went through that too.
I was, my Charlisa, my oldest daughter, mother was coming to see me, and I fell out with the CEO, and he made sure that I didn't get no visit. And he went on vacation on my ass and everything, and she was at the gate to come and see me and everything, and I did not get to do that visit because I was being an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Which after I went back and thought about it, it was all on me. You know what I'm saying? All I had to do was kind of be a model prison citizen, and it would all happen, you know. It would all happen, but that was on me. That really was.
So what did you do to stop the revolving door syndrome in your life?
I said, once I went to prison once, I'm not coming back here. I'll never go to prison again as long as I live, because I didn't like the fact that they tell you when to get up, they tell you when to eat, sleep, and shit, and when to shower. And then you showering with 20 different other swinging dicks. You don't want that, you know what I'm saying? You watching people get stabbed, you hearing motherfuckers get raped, you know what I'm saying? And that's enough in itself.
Right. And I feel just like you, because I know I specifically did certain things to make sure I wasn't gonna come out to prison, because I had to be real with myself.
Right.
I'm an ex-dope boy, so I'm accustomed to a certain style of living. And when you're like us,
Right.
and we're gonna find a way to get it. We're gonna find a way to get it, because that's just how you're wired. You know. So what did you do to make sure you didn't go back to prison?
When I got out of prison, I paroled in Arizona, because I did time in California and Arizona, because I had two different cases, and it was transportation of marijuana, which I'm legally selling now, you know, which, you know, I love the shit out of it. But it was transportation of marijuana. The first time, one of me and my homeboys, I'll leave his name up out of it, we was doing our thing, you know, which I was saved by one of my ex-wives, and I'm gonna say the son that I'm in business with now, Nico, his mother, she put a bug in my ear. She was like, Charles, you might want to change up the way you move. You know what I'm saying? Because I was a dope boy with the cocaine and everything.
Right.
She said, you might want to go this time to California and get weed. Because that's just something that she said. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, well, I'm not bringing back no kilos of cocaine. I'm gonna bring back some weed this time. Okay. And the only reason I got busted is because it was 1 o'clock in the morning and my homeboy was speeding because he was trying to get back to some pussy. And he was speeding, and we got pulled over in a little small town in Arizona called Holbrook, Arizona, or whatever. And our stories didn't match. He was going to a wedding, I was going to a funeral. They was like, oh, these niggas lying. Because I'm in the backseat sleep, because it's his turn to drive. Right. You know, we cool. Right. You know,
but you know, it's funny you say the only reason, because I remember I used to say that, but actually that was your destiny.
It was my destiny.
Right.
It was my destiny.
Right. No matter what you would have said, whatever,
it was my destiny.
That was happening.
That was it. That was happening anyway.
Because, like, I think for us, that was when God said, okay, enough of you playing with yourself. Let me wake him up.
There you go.
Let me wake him up.
Yeah, let me wake him up. I was in the backseat sleep, and we got pulled over. Long story short, small ass community. It was in one of those, you know, it was one of them Jim Crow counties where they could have gave us 42 years for 50 pounds of weed. That was on the table. It was 42 years, you know, and God bless him this day, he's still living. My cousin Randy Beats put his house up. That was in California. Man. Put his house up and came and bailed me out. But my dumb ass, like, oh, I gotta get right now. So I'm go get some more money. So I'm gonna double back and try it again. You know, just dumb shit.
You usually catch your second case right after you catch your first case because you're trying to make the money to pay your first case, and it's like, and this is the thing. This is one of the things I learned in life from that, because I ran into the same thing when you fall into the hole or the trap,
Mm-hmm.
don't do nothing.
Don't-
Sit
Freeze.
still, be patient until this trap, let this trap completely work
Yeah.
its way out.
Yeah.
Don't try to make up, don't try to recover, don't try to anything. And I did that this time with my divorce. And it was the difference maker.
And here's was the thing. So I went back and did it again. You know, boom, grabbed some shit, put it all together, all this whole thing. And what makes it so bad? My son, that's the CEO of the, you know, of Green Room, you know, Enterprise. He's the CEO now. His mother came to pick me up because the vehicle that my cousin was driving broke down. So I called her, asked her to rent a car, woo, 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 and she did that, you know, because she would do anything in the world for me, and drove down and picked me up. But at this time, she pregnant with the CEO, with Nico. She pregnant with this guy. So, you know, long story short, we put drugs in the car. We get on the highway. Woo! No sooner than we get 20 miles out of, you know, San Bernardino is where we was. It's a county in California. They swoop on us. Boom, boom. Hey, Charles, how's it going? They already knew. You know, they already was on my ass. Not
Right.
knowing, you know,
Right.
we didn't know. Because we didn't know that they had technology, like, because we was young.
Right,
though.
right,
You
right.
know, a lot of this shit we brung to the table and did different shit and know now. But, you know, they, boom, locked us all up. And they was like, all you had to do, you know, I got a high-paying attorney, had my Meemaw send him some money. He was like, hey, man, you could have saved this because all you need to do is say that this is your shit and we'll let everybody else go. You know what I'm saying? And mind you,
Chuck, we're gonna have to come back with your part 2 of your interview.
Yeah.
And we'd like to thank everybody for watching. Black Dad, Black Man, Black Fam, Black Fam. Thank you for watching Black Dad Code. And we will pick up again with the interview with Mr. Williams.
We came up off of slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane. We came up off of slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane, slinging Mary Jane. Hey, G-R-E-K.